Hello, this is Chris Norman. Welcome to another episode. And this one was to be a requested feature is how to do splits. Obviously, if you want to have a sustainable apiary, you have to be able to understand the biology and really the science of how to split your colonies. Whether you have 2 colonies or 50 colonies or 1,000 colonies, splitting your hives is essential because you will experience losses in your apiary. You either already have and you know what that feels like, or you haven't yet, and unfortunately it will happen. So being able to split a colony from 2 or from 1 to 2 or 3 or 4, boy, that's going to really help expand your apiary. On this one, we're talking about 3 different ways of splitting, and we'll demonstrate one of them. So obviously, what's the biology behind this? Well, just keep in mind that if a colony does not have a queen, they're going to have to make a queen, right? And obviously, this is an emergency response. They're going to take a larvae and be able to make a queen from that. So in order to make sure that both splits are adequate, make sure that there is eggs present in both splits. And you can do this whether you find the queen or not. Just making sure both hives have eggs, then you know that no matter what happens, they will be able to make their own queen. So that's an essential part. Another one is, what if you buy a queen, right? Let's say you buy a queen. Why would you want to buy one compared to having them raise their own? Well, again, what's the biology of this? Well, if they grow their own queen, it's going to take 3 weeks to sometimes a month before the queen is grown, essentially, goes out and experiences her nuptial flights, comes back, and then starts laying an egg. That could be anywhere from 3 weeks to a month. Then you have a 3-week cycle of a brood cycle for worker bees. It takes 21 days, right, from an egg being laid to the worker bee hatching. And so now we're talking about almost 2 months for that. And so if you're going to have your colony make their own queen, it is a beautiful brood break, but at the same time, it has to be the right season for that. So obviously, if it's swarm season, that's a good time to do your splits, and you know that they can grow their own queen. If you're outside of that area, or of course, if you just want to kind of cut down the time, you do want to go ahead and buy a queen. That way it cuts down the cycle from 2 months to 3 weeks, right? And again, there's hardly any brood break there. So that's kind of, again, the biology. However you mix this up, just know that what it takes to grow a queen, there has to be eggs present. And of course, if you're going to buy a queen, the difference between the two is really about timing. So what are the 3 different ways to split your colony? One is called a walkaway split. In this case, you don't have to find the queen. Again, we talked about making sure that both the original colony and the split, in this case, we have a small nuke box, both have eggs present. With eggs, the colony can grow their own queen, and you don't have to actually find the queen. Now, again, it's always nice to go to find the queen, and why is it the case? Because a lot of times you want to keep the queen in the original box if possible. Now, again, that's just kind of a cautionary. You really have to do that. The queen can be in here, the queen can be in there, so walkaway split is fine. So just take your brood, make sure there's eggs, right? You put it in the split, make sure there's eggs in there, and again, you'll be fine. Now keep all this also in mind, that if you're in the same location, and again, majority of you will be doing your splits and leaving the other split in the same apiary. Just make sure that there's an adequate supply of bees in the split. Why? Because the forager bees, the older bees, will leave the split and go back to the original location. So make sure there's more brood in here, emerging brood, as well as nurse bees, to make sure that the hive can still thrive and grow. Also, keep in mind, because they're not having forager bees, you're going to have to feed them most likely, or make sure there's adequate food sources in there. But most likely, if it's in the same apiary, you've done the split, the worker bees will go ahead and the forager bees will fly away out of the split, go back to the original colony, make sure that they have food sources, because the worker bees, the forager bees will not be able to find food sources for the colony. So keep that in mind. So what if, also, you want to make sure you can find the queen if possible, especially if you want to insert a new queen, right? That's another option. You have a split here. You have, let's say, 4 brood frames in there, or 3 brood in one nectar or honey there. Make sure that you want to find the queen. Why? Because if I put the new queen in this box and it has a queen in there, one of the queens is going to die, right? So you want to make sure that. Now, again, there is a way of doing this. Let's say I don't want to find the queen, or maybe you're not got that skill level yet, even though I would say practice makes perfect, right? So every single time you go in there, make sure you can identify the queen. But overall, let's say you can't find the queen, that's okay. Go ahead and do your splits. Again, what we talk about, making sure there's eggs in both, and then make sure you leave it there for over 3 days. Why? Because it takes 3 days for an egg to molt into a larva. And so that way you know when you come back 4 or 5 days later, which one has the eggs? That one has the queen. And so you know the other one can go ahead and accept the new queen. So that can help you differentiate those things. And so, so again, you don't have to find the queen. If you can, though, it is a good idea, again, to leave her in her original box because her smell and pheromones are already present and it kind of makes the system go well. But again, it's not needed. In this case, we're going to go ahead and try to find the queen and then keep the queen here and then bring frames of emerging brood, right? Those are bees are ready to emerge in the next maybe 2 weeks or so. We'll make sure there's plenty of those. That way there's going to be a nice supply of bees in there as well as food. So let's do that right now. So I have a smoker here. That's pretty good. Again, the idea here is we're going to split the colony. Make sure that we have adequate food. You can tell they're feeding here. We are in probably a Darth period. It's in August. But we still want to make sure that both hives are good. Now, why did I pick this one as a split? Well, because they were bearding quite aggressively. And it means that they're running out of room. I just figure this is a great colony to go ahead and split. So you can see right here, they're making a lot of comb. We've got a full box of bees here. And again, I'm going to look for the queen in the back. No queen there. I'm going to go and move the hive to the front here in case these bees want to come back to their location. So let's go ahead and smoke our bees here. Entrance. Our hands, right? Okay. And get in this. Now, I'm going to start from the end. Looks like there's this side one. They haven't made any wax yet. I'm going to go ahead and take this here. Grab up. They're still doing well. I'm going to place that right here. And now we have room to go. Now, a lot of times, it's just make it easier on yourself. Just go ahead and start grabbing the frames from the side outwards, and that's fine too. So I'm gonna move this over. So again, it looks like there's honey in this one. What I like to do is I like to pull the same frames. Again, only because I'm putting them into the split, they're able to kind of mesh up a little better as opposed to, as opposed to just kind of being out of whack here. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this. You can see this is a nice frame of food, capped nearly on both sides. This will be a great addition to the smaller split. This will be their food source. In this case, you can see how much honey there is. Probably the split does not need to have any food because they have adequate sources here. So I'm gonna go and put this here on the side. Just like that. Some of these boxes are a little finicky. We're gonna keep on going. And now we're probably gonna start getting to the brood. Now again, when you're doing splits, overall, we wanna again look for the queen, right? If possible, keep her in here, but also keep emerging brood, just brood in general, just to make sure we have food sources here. And you can see here, a nice band of honey. Very nice. We do have some brood here. Looks like they're slightly honey bound. You can see here, brood on the very bottom, but overall is honey. So really this colony should have been split a number of weeks ago. Again, I want to look for the queen really quickly. And you can tell in this case, they don't need food because they do have plenty of food. Okay, don't see the queen. And again, if you miss the queen again, just know that's not a problem. you can just check back. Don't put your new queen in there if you're buying a queen until after the 3-day period, so you can check to make sure which colony actually had the queen or not. And that's going to be the one that obviously has the eggs. The one with the queen has the eggs. I would still check both because you'd be surprised how much there's a virgin in there or some type of situation. So there we go. Get more smoke. Smoker's not working with me today. Okay, here we go. This one's a nice emerging frame of brood. Some falling bees here. Make sure I can see the queen if possible. And again, you want to keep the queen in the original box. This would be a nice frame to put into the box here. I'm going to flip it on the side. There's a nice band all around. I do not see the queen here. Okay. Again, from our earlier videos, right, on finding a queen, make sure to reference that if you need assistance. Basically, you're looking for, it's going to be on the brood area. If there's eggs, that means that she's already been there most likely. So reference that video if you need. We can tell, obviously, this is expanding here. You can probably put one more. That's why sometimes in nukes you only have 4 frames because of this exact situation. So we'll put one more here. And the reason why I'm kind of dwindling this a little more is because the forager bees are going to go back from there to here, so they're going to have plenty area to work. And here's the queen right here in the center. You might not be able to see her, but she's here. So now that I know that, I'm going to put her back here. You can find the queen is very helpful. Now I know she's here, so now I know this one will be queenless for my knowledge. And that's exactly the situation you want. Typically, you want to make sure you know where the queen is at. Okay, and then I don't want to take all their food, obviously, and I'm not taking all their food, and also I don't want to take all their brood frames either. So I want to make sure that I check this. If they have adequate brood frames, again, you want to make sure still there's emerging brood in here, emerging brood in there. You want to make sure there's a kind of an equal portion of bees coming and going. Obviously, food is not an issue right now because there's a lot of food in here. But I still want to make sure. And this one has still some ones. I'm going to go ahead and take this one. And the reason why, because this one has eggs and larvae. It's at a different stage of growth. So, and it has a lot of pollen. So that's going to be my split. Now, looks like I have food, pollen, honey, and I'm able to go ahead and put this back. And actually, sometimes if you can't fit them, especially if you're using foundationless frames, you're gonna have to get some frames. So let me get right back. Perfect, okay, we got frames. So I'm gonna go ahead and space these in here. I'm gonna put this here. If you're using foundationless frames, unfortunately, they're gonna get sometimes little, you have to space them a little bit. This one has the queen, right? I want to make sure I find the queen, know exactly where she's at. I don't want to squish her on these sides, especially this close to the season. You want to make sure that overall she's on this side. As long as she's not on these sides here, you'll be fine. Okay. Space another one here. Okay, so we got them spaced, have our split here. We'll go and put our top on. Put our top back on, and we'll just talk about again what we did here. You can see what's left here. We have the queen, which had some open brood. Then we have some cap brood, some open brood, and a bunch of food. So we have a nice different stages of bees. That's kind of what a nice thing is. You have different stages of development. Okay. Oopsie. Perfect. Okay, so let's go over the split again. So we took an equal portion, actually more portion, right? Make sure there's food in here. Different stages of brood, open brood, cap brood. We know where our queen is at, and this is a split. At this point, I know that within 48 hours from now, I can go and put in a queen here. I can even do a direct release with a lot of smoke within this new colony because there won't be a lot of worker bees, right? Those forager bees will come back into here. Young bees willing to accept a new queen. This is the perfect kind of situation for a split. So this is the ideal split for other colonies. Again, there's other splits we'll talk about in other articles, but hopefully this at least helped you out in how this is. As long as you know what the hive needs, right? They need, make sure they have eggs in both. They have food. A lot of bees, you're ready to do your split there. So anyways, we appreciate the journey with us. Have beekeeping.